Hi, hello and welcome back to my video recipe series where I'm baking something inspired by the Greek gods and goddesses. After diving into the very bright and summery golden sun aesthetic for Apollo last month, the sun is starting to set now and we're finally approaching his twin sister, Artemis. Like Apollo, Artemis is a child of Zeus and another one of the 12 most prominent gods and goddesses among Greek mythology. She is the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness and its animals, as well as the protectress and patroness of young girls. She is often depicted hunting with a silver bow and arrows, but besides just killing wildlife for fun or sportsmanship, she was also believed to protect animals, and especially the deer was sacred to her. Being the counterpart to her twin brother Apollo, god of the sun and light, she is also widely associated with being the goddess of the moon, and her bow partially became the symbol of the crescent or waxing moon in some communities. Like Athena, she also never wanted to marry and remain a maiden forever. And she also didn't take that vow lightly. I remember one of the first stories I heard about her was that when another male hunter saw her and her nymphs bathing, she was so furious she turned him into a stag and let his hounds hunt him to death. Like, she is no one to mess with, I guess. With being associated as the goddess of the moon and wilderness, forests, nature, the night sky, and titles such as the mistress of animals or she of the wild are connected to Artemis. Her overall aesthetics seem to include a natural color palette, silver, the wild, and a somewhat gloomy and mystical atmosphere in general. So yeah, that's that for Artemis, I think. Let's see my sketch. Okay, quick interruption now before we're going into the concept sketch review. I wanted to mention something here too. So because of the current events in some parts of Europe and especially in Greece, since this video is about a Greek goddess and also especially the Greek goddess of the wilderness, forests and nature, I wanted to mention the extremely intense wildfires that are happening right now, or as of when this video comes out, have happened over the past weeks. I simply wanted to say that I am very sad and sorry to hear about people and nature being harmed, families having to be evacuated out of their homes, and entire lives being destroyed by what is or has been happening in the areas that have been affected by the fires. I don't know what exactly to say, but I wish everyone the strength to overcome their struggles, and if any of you have the resources, I will link a site to donate in the description box below, because I thought that was one of the only ways to help from afar in some kind of way at least. So yeah, back to the video, I guess. Because Artemis and Apollo are twins, I knew I wanted to connect them in some way. And if you watched my last video, you might know that I made some golden sun cupcakes for Apollo. So not only therefore I, of course, also envisioned cupcakes for Artemis, but I also kind of thought that cupcakes or smaller baked goods would be perfect for her, as I somehow imagined she would take them into the forest with her and share them with her nymphs, having some sort of a divine picnic and chill situation going on. This time though, I plan to go for forest type colors like brown and green, using a brownie base with chocolate and walnut chunks and a light pastel matcha green tea frosting. Also, I personally love brownies and matcha, so I wanted to add a little bit of me to them in some way. To portray her connection to the moon, I also wanted to add little crescent moon-shaped cookies, but decorated with edible flowers to stay true to the wilderness and forest vibe I had going on. Also, as another homage to Apollo, I wanted to include the chocolate pepero sticks once again, but this time symbolizing a bow or moon shape. Lastly, I planned to add white currants as some seemingly wild-looking forest-type berries, a drizzle of white almond butter, and for the first time in this series, silver edible glitter. And yeah, these were my ideas for Artemis's wild moon and forest-style cupcakes. Now, let's see if they lived up to my expectations. I started with the frosting, so I combined natural cashew butter, vegan cream cheese, a pinch of salt and vanilla, some light colored liquid sweetener, lemon juice, melted coconut oil and plant milk together in a bowl and whipped the mix until everything was smooth and evenly combined. Then I set it in the fridge for 1.5 to 2 hours to harden. Next up are the Crescent moon cookies, and for them I first blended some oats into oat flour and then mixing it with a little bit of regular spelt flour. I also added another pinch of salt and vanilla, sugar, and mixed it one more time before adding the liquid ingredients such as white almond butter and plant milk until it turns into a non-sticky dough, which can then be turned into cute little cutout cookies. After rolling out the dough, I placed my edible flowers on top of it and pressed them down using the rolling pin again. I then cut out little circles with a tiny jar because I didn't have a crescent moon shaped cookie cutter, and then lastly shaped the circles into little crescent moons and baked them at 180 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes. Onto our brownie cupcakes. Combine flour, salt, vanilla, coconut or regular sugar, cocoa and baking powder in a bowl and set aside. I like my brownies with a somewhat crispier outside, so I try to replace the ridiculously high amount of eggs in my favorite brownie recipe from my childhood with aquafaba, aka chickpea water. For that, you want to whip up your aquafaba for about 3 to 5 minutes, add baking powder, lemon juice and some liquid sweetener or sugar and whip continuously until you get to a very stiff egg white kind of consistency. Now add your liquid ingredients like plant milk, oil and almond butter to the brownie mix and stir or whip until combined. Lastly, carefully fold in your whipped aquafaba until you get a smooth and glossy batter. And add walnuts and chocolate to your liking. Fill the batter into little silicone muffin molds or use some parchment paper cups and bake them also at 180 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes. If your timing fits it, you can basically swap the cookies with the brownie cupcakes here and use the already preheated oven. Also, if you can't find edible flowers, a simple but very pretty vegan white chocolate glaze along with some silver glitter should do the trick too. Do the prick test to see if the brownies are ready and set them aside to cool down. Wait for them to cool down completely before you frost them. Couldn't help but eat one right away though. My frosting was also set by now, so I whipped it up again until light and fluffy and added a little bit of matcha powder. I would suggest to add matcha through a sieve to avoid clumps and add a little bit at a time to get the right color and flavor for your personal taste. This frosting should be super fluffy, almost like buttercream, and once you're done, just place it back into the fridge until you're ready to frost the cupcakes. For the peppermint bows, just use some pretzel or breadsticks, melt down vegan white chocolate, and coat and decorate them like so. You can also add some toppings of your choice or try different bow or crescent shapes if you'd like. Once done, place them on some parchment paper and set in the freezer until the chocolate hardened again. So I think we're ready to frost the brownie cupcakes now. I gave the frosting a quick whip again to make it easier to work with, arranged 7 of the brownies and started to frost using a simple spoon. You can of course also pipe the frosting for a more neat and pretty look, but I went for the freestyle white look here. Quick change of scenery and continue with the white currants and of course the crescent moon flower cookies. A little drizzle of white almond butter and of course the new and shiny edible silver glitter. And that's it, brownie and matcha wilderness moon cupcakes for Artemis. To be very honest with y'all, I was kinda nervous about making this part of this series. As you may or may not know, my name is Artemis, and therefore I wanted especially this recipe and video to be nothing less than 100% perfect. I may have a little perfectionist problem anyway, but that's a whole nother topic. So to be honest, I really had unrealistic expectations for this one. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love how these turned out, but sometimes it's hard to meet the standards you set for yourself. Maybe I could have done better. Wait for better lighting, try another setting, get the decoration just a bit more on point, spend a few more hours on the color correcting or editing, or even bake the whole batch again for a few better shots. But honestly, I don't think it would have changed anything, except for the fun to stress ratio. So I choose to be happy with the result. Because I do like them. They do fit my idea for Artemis and they don't need to be perfect. Just like maybe I don't need to be perfect. Like no one needs to be. Okay, wow, that turned into a TED talk to myself and all of you guys real quick. So now that just made the whole thing a lot more personal, which isn't that exactly what I wanted for this video. Anyways, so that's it, I guess. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you liked my ideas for this part of my baking series and see you next time. Bye!